We don't get to spend as much time in community as we used to. I'm so glad for you to be here. My name is Tim Huddleston. I have the privilege of serving here at Eagle Sky. I'm one of the new guys, so I'm still learning my way around also. But on behalf of our entire Eagle Sky family, Tim Hughes is here. He's also a newbie here. Tony Ursey, you met at the gate. He's actually our CFO. So when you're in a place like this, you wear a lot of different hats. So again, just thank you for being here. Grateful for everyone. You know, what this community has to offer is amazing. What this area has to offer is amazing. The beauty of the Ozarks, the mountains, the streams, the hills. You know, the mixture of pine trees and oak trees. That's what makes this part of the country unique. But really, it's the people that make the difference. You know, and Eagle Sky is grateful to be a part of this community. This team that is here, I don't know how in the world, beyond our Father and a great vision, that they could bring in this kind of unique talent to this group. From Nathan in operations to, you know, we have 2 Le Cordon Bleu trained chefs cooking in our dining hall. Where does that happen? They just say, there's better places that I can serve than in a restaurant, and they're here to make a difference in this community. We had somewhere around 11,000 kids come through these gates this summer. People ask me what Eagle Sky is. I said it's real easy. It's a place for kids from 1 to 101 to say yes to Jesus. That's all it is. To have a place where you can set aside the world, and with no Christian discount, because we want to make certain that this place is as first class as any place anyone would ever come. And we want to thank you for being a part of it. Because it's because of you and the economic development opportunities that are presented in this community that allows us to be here also. And we're grateful to link arms with each and every one of you. I'm going to pray real quick. We're going to show a quick video, and then Denny's going to come up and get us started. Would you pray with me? Father, it is a special honor to stand in front of this group, to be here, to link arms with this community, with the greater community of Southeast Missouri. What a great, amazing place that you've created here. We look across the hills, we see the change in the seasons and the colors, to know that you're in control. Father, I ask you to continue to bless this time, bless our efforts, and bless this community, bless the people here. Lord, help them see that what you have to offer is more than anything else in the world. And Father, the ways that we can do that is through tangible gifts, tangible differences in the lives of people. And I'm grateful for those who've dedicated their lives to make an impact here. We thank you for everything. In Jesus' name, amen.
It's been an amazing week. If you're not ready for the Lord to speak to you, don't come, because the Lord is going to move in your life.
And I feel like many lives have been changed. You wouldn't want to miss it. You really wouldn't.
It was very unexpected how much God moved in this camp. I thought it was just so cool to see everyone in worship. No one was afraid of other people. They just wanted to worship God. I thought that was just so cool. We run down to the floor, and we're just all getting hype. And so there's hype songs usually at the beginning. We're just all singing super loud, and it's nobody cares what you sound like because we're all losing our voices here.
I got to praise the Lord. I got to watch 2 of the friends I made here dedicate their life to Christ, and it has been an amazing experience.
Everybody needs to learn Christ. He's everything, really.
I was up in my seat singing, and I was thinking in my head, Lord, I can't be living this life anymore. The life I've been living I've been living for myself. I haven't been living for you. I can't do it anymore, and I just want to be saved.
I stood up. I think I was the first person who did stand up. I bolted upright, and I was a little nervous, but then they started clapping and cheering, and it made me feel really, really, really good. I couldn't stop crying, but it was happy, joy tears.
I've been every game, and I really liked the job.
activities definitely been too, but I like when they go fast.
The mud race was probably my favorite team activity.
It's great. You won't regret it. You will want to come back. I'm coming back. I came back.
Well, I do want to just thank everybody for coming out this afternoon. And when we talk about economic development especially, you cannot help but bring Eagle Sky into the factor, especially for Wayne County. So anything I ever do, I'll do my best to promote them for sure. Not only to the 200 jobs they put in the community, the economic impact that they have as well, but also just their stand for Christ. But, again, thank you to the Eagle Sky team and everything you guys do for the community. Thank you for hosting us today. I always got questions about, economic development, this and that, and I know enough to be dangerous. So it's one of those Jeff City drives where you're just driving and all of a sudden you come up with all these ideas, and then by the time you get back from Jeff City, we have this here today. So I don't want to spend too much time, but again, just thank you all for coming. I'm going to ask the panel to come up now. Our moderator, I was introduced to our moderator a few years back with Don Hinkle, who's now passed away. Lucas Preston, he's the former assistant editor to the Southeast Missourian, also general manager of Southeast Missourian. Now he is a director over South SEMO Ready, which is Rural Economic Development Initiative, I do believe. But I'm going to hand it off to him. He's going to introduce the panel, wherever you gentlemen want to feel comfortable at, and we'll let them take it from there.
Thank you, Denny. Can we give Denny a round of applause? Denny, the team at Eagle Sky, great job, and thanks for bringing us all together today. Again, welcome. Good morning. We're glad to have everybody here today. We're going to talk about economic development. I'll introduce our panel here in a second, but wanted to just give you a little bit of an overview before we get in. This session is going to focus on workforce and economic development with a special look at the opportunities and the challenges we face here in Southeast Missouri, but across the state. We brought together the panel leaders with some of their unique perspectives on ag, on business, local government, economic development, and then we're also going to save time for Q&A, so be thinking about those questions as we go along today. As Vinny said, my name is Lucas Preston. I'm the Director of Business Growth and Innovation at SEMO Ready. We're a regional economic development organization based in Cape Girardeau, primarily focusing on Cape Girardeau County and Scott City, but working across Southeast Missouri on a variety of projects. I came from a background, as Vinny said, in local media, spent 14 years in Rusk Communications, and transitioned to SEMO Ready earlier this year. Great organization, doing a lot of good stuff. So you'll hear more about some of the work that SEMO Ready is doing as we talk about regional. Our day-to-day, we're focused on some of the things that are closer to my home, but we're also looking at regional things like our economic development report that's going to be released early in the year. We're looking at apprenticeships. Some of these things cross across multiple counties, and so we're looking forward to seeing how that regional impact goes from there. But I'm going to start it off with the introduction of our panelists, and we're not in order. Do we need to get in order? No, it's all right. I know. But hang on. Let me get my papers together here. First of all, Senator Jason Dean, who represents the Boot Heel in the Missouri Senate as a senator for District 25, which includes Butler, Carter, Dunklin, Mississippi, New Madrid, Oregon County, Pemiscot, Ripley, Stoddard, and Wayne counties. Is that all? Okay. All right. That's enough, right? He's a fifth-generation farmer and agribusiness leader and has served on national boards to advance the American agriculture and the global marketplace. He's also a great follow on social media with your updates from the farm. I enjoy those. Senator Jamie Berger on the other end. Senator Berger represents Missouri's 27th senatorial district, which covers Bollinger, Cape Girardeau, Iron, Madison, Perry, Reynolds, and Scott counties. Before his time in the Senate, in the House, he spent decades in industry and nearly 2 decades as presiding commissioner in Scott County. Robert Nodell, right next to him, City Manager of Poplar Bluff. Robert brings a wealth of experience from state government, having led the Department of Social Services and served as Acting Director of Health and Senior Services before returning home to lead his community. And finally, Ed Dust. A retired economic development strategist, Ed most recently served as Syson's Economic Development Director, and over his career has led chambers of commerce across Missouri and Arkansas, helping shape long-term business growth strategies. So welcome to our panelists this morning. We're going to jump in and out, different questions for folks, and some will be for everybody. And this first one actually does hit on everybody. I'd like to ask you if you share your perspective on one of the key workforce or economic development challenges Southeast Missouri must address over the next 5 years. Senator Bean?
So I think some of the challenges we're going to face, I think that we've looked at is challenges in our workforce. I think what COVID did to us and kind of put us in a certain place, I think we've got to overcome that. And I think just putting people to work is so important that we've got to try to figure out to get that workforce understanding. You need to be in the workforce. This is why you need to do it. I had a text from a young person here the other day that said, I need a job. And I said, oh, okay, what do you want to do with this job? And they said, well, you know what, to support our livelihood and put food on the table, I need a job. And I thought, golly, I'm glad to hear that. I mean, that was something that, when an 18-year-old says that. So I think that's just some of the challenges that we need to look is putting this workforce back to work.
Absolutely. Senator Berger, we'll jump down.
I think expanding our career and technology centers to be more accessible throughout Southeast Missouri, not just in our major communities, but also our smaller communities. There are so many opportunities. I come from industry. There's so many opportunities for welders, electricians, machinists, and not everybody's made to go to college. Not everybody's made to go to secondary school. I think we keep expanding those programs. I think that invites kids that want to do work with their hands. You always say we need people that will design a building like this, but we also need people that's going to dig the footings for the concrete, tie the rebar together, and those type of things too. So I think expanding the CTCs, it would be a valuable asset for all of Southeast Missouri.
That's a great point. We're going to dive more into that as we get along today. Robert?
Yeah, there's a lot of communities that are represented here today, and I think if we take a look at where we stand, in many of our communities, our population is not growing, and in some cases, it is declining. And if you take a look at the population that we do have that is aging and becoming senior citizens and aging out of the workforce, even if your population is flat, your workforce participation is going down. So I don't look at unemployment numbers, I look at the workforce participation rate. And so we have to take a hard look at individuals that are not participating in the workforce, and why is that? And so I go back to my old social services background and say, there are a lot of people that the government does a good job of giving the resources to subsist and to get by. But we need to structure our social safety net, not just the government, but also local organizations, churches, charitable entities, that when we support people, that we're supporting them in a way that leads them to self-sufficiency. And that's transportation, that's childcare. If you're here from a church and your church isn't talking about setting up childcare, if you take nothing else from what I say today, consider that, because you probably have the buildings, the furnishings, you just need the staff. And we need childcare for our workforce, reliable transportation, training, etc. But our social safety net and charitable efforts really need to be pointed toward the individuals that do live in our communities, but they're not participating in the workforce and doing things to help them become self-sufficient and to get back in.
And then?
Well, it's always been a problem that in Southeast Missouri especially, that we have a lot of underemployed people that can do a lot more than what they're doing. And we have to improve on that. The technical training, we need more plumbers, more welders, more electricians than we need college graduates that don't know how to do those type of things. And that's something that's 20 years ago was a problem. And as we grow and as things go on, the service industry is going to be a lot more than manufacturing. With all the medical facilities that we have, Probably everybody sitting here, if you're on a school board in one of our school districts, you're probably one of the larger employers in each community. And we need to make sure that when we get our kids out of high school, that we've got them a little bit better prepared to go into the workforce.
All right, so on a little brighter topic, from your perspective, what do you think some of the strengths are for Southeast Missouri? Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, it's our people. And true, we got great people in Southeast Missouri. But from a specific resources standpoint, beyond that, what do you think our competitive advantages is in Southeast Missouri? We'll start on Senator Berger.
You know, I think by us having the infrastructure system that we have and the opportunity for land advancement, land development, we have so many industrial parks that aren't full. We have the river, we have Interstate 55, Interstate 57, Highway 60, 67. I think we have the opportunity to expand. When Robert and Riddell talked about declining populations in our communities, I think if we continue to promote CTCs and promote our infrastructure values, you know, we have airports such as Marble Hill. We have airports located all throughout my district and Senator Bean's district as well. And we need to put those things out there. This year at the Sykes Rodeo, I invited a bunch of different senators and representatives down to enjoy the rodeo to showcase what we have to offer in Southeast Missouri. And I don't think we do that enough. I think we just kind of take a backseat to the rest of the state, and we've tried to change that, myself and Senator Bean, and along with Representative Tony Harbison, who's out in the crowd. I want to make sure he's welcomed here today. And promote those ideas, promote Southeast Missouri. I think we have that infrastructure. Our utility rates are cheap. We have access to water and fiber most places. We need to continue to push that options.
And I would agree 100%. You know, for us in the city of Poplar Bluff, when we're pitching to potential businesses, the first thing we talk about is affordable utilities and the availability of water. Some of the fastest growing areas in the United States, water is a critical shortage. And, you know, we do not have the state environmental regulations that a lot of other states do that keep businesses from being able to come in and operate. And so a favorable regulatory environment. And, you know, when it comes to permits and the regulatory process to start a business in Poplar Bluff, and I know Sykeston's the same way, Dexter, probably almost every community represented here, you know, you can set up shop and go to work and actually open your doors much more quickly than even other communities in Missouri and certainly in other states. And so that regulatory environment and the affordability of the opportunity to do business here is really our key selling point, I believe.
It's transportation. We put 2 large warehouse companies in Sykeston because of the interstates. I mean, you've got to be able to get where you're going. They've got to be able to get their product to market to the next day type inventory. So transportation, and we are very blessed in this area because of the water, and that, you know, and we're very blessed to have the farmers. If I counted all the cotton bales coming over here today, we make more cotton in Southeast Missouri than they do anywhere else. But being able to get stuff to the market is a big deal.
And I'm going to just follow on that. I mean, we are so fortunate to have the Mississippi River and have that access to move our products. You know, we're not just moving products in New Orleans, we're moving products throughout the world. So to, you know, expand on that, I mean, we look at 55, we look at future 57, we look at 67, we look at 60. I mean, we are so fortunate. I mean, for me to get, this is the northern part of my district, and it took me an hour to get here. That's pretty amazing. And like I say, the time that it takes for that, you were talking about to get to a 4-lane highway for a company, put a truck and get to a 4-lane highway and get to 65 miles an hour in Southeast Missouri is pretty, you know, amazing. So I think that's, you know, once again, all fantastic comments, and I think that, you know, that is truly our biggest thing that we have here is that transportation infrastructure.
Particularly with nonprofits and churches and how to support them. Let's dig in a little bit on that issue. What are some tangible things that you think the state of Missouri has done well on that front? And what do you think are the next steps that need to be done? Or maybe some things that local municipalities and communities could be doing right now? Robert, let's start with you.
Well, I mean, obviously we've got 2 state senators up here that have worked very, very closely with departments at the state level in terms of reforming and improving our social welfare, our safety net programs, not only to give someone enough resources to get by, but also to give them a hand up. And so, at the state level and the federal level, what's being done with work requirements and work expectations with these programs is very, very important. Getting people back on their feet, getting them to self-sufficiency. Obviously, access to child care, the affordability of child care. And again, the state's doing a lot of work in that area, but that is a barrier, and there is a very, very significant portion of the workforce that availability and affordability of child care is a barrier, and it's keeping people from being able to do what they want to do, or perhaps someone from pursuing the career that they want to pursue, that they would like to chase. And transportation is another issue, and reliability of transportation to get to work, to get back to work. A lot of our programs don't address that, perhaps as they should, but I know, transportation, we have some social welfare organizations within the city of Poplar Bluff that assist people with getting transportation to training or transportation to work. And that's not hard to do, really, when you stop and think about it. And then at housing, we get into, which we could go a long time about, available housing, affordable housing, workforce housing for individuals. We do have a future interstate coming into Poplar Bluff. Well, what does that mean? It usually means distribution jobs and service sector jobs. So we have to ask the question, do we have enough housing available? And looking for housing in that workforce price range, for individuals to be able to have a secure home. Homelessness is also an issue that we have, and certainly, if we can structure our safety net programs in a way to pull people out of that into a secure situation and to be able to work, it solves a multitude of the social programs that all of our communities deal with.
Senator Berger, you talked about CTCs, particularly for folks that maybe aren't in Cape Girardeau or Jackson or close to one of the CTCs. What do you think that means for getting someone in Wayne County getting access to career and technology education?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is we have to expand the CTCs. Maybe have a satellite structure in the smaller counties, in the more cities that are removed from Cape Girardeau, removed from Sykes, removed from Poplar Bluff. I think we need to offer that we have to partnership with high schools, in the local areas to expand like we used to. I learned to weld in voyage class in first and second hour at Kelly High School. That's where I learned to weld, and then I took that further up the line. We got to get back to those type of programs in our high schools to allow kids to expand their talents, to have the buy-in. We had gas engines, we had welding, and I participated in all those things growing up as a farm boy. It was just valuable for me to know those things. So I think expansion of that, partnering with communities, partnering with the school districts, I think would be a plus.
Senator Bean, anything you want to add on that topic?
Just a couple things. I think, Robert, your point to child care, I think that is truly a huge point. We're looking at expanding an industry right now, and one of the things we've looked at is if you put in a child care facility, I'm telling you, I think there's a facility in Kansas City like this, they're going to come. They will turn people back, so I think that is critical. Also, totally agree with Senator Berger's comments as well. We were just at a job fair here about a couple of weeks ago, and when they first had this job fair for the kids, how many was there? Like 800 kids. How many was there this one? 2,200, 2,100. So, once again, just showing kids what's available, making programs available for them, I think is critical. So I agree with all the comments.
I want to expand on one thing he had said, and myself and Senator Bean are working toward this. We have to cut back on our regulations as a state. It's ridiculous for a person to try to start a daycare facility and have all these stumbling blocks. We have to get rid of a lot of that red tape, open it up for business. We need to get, there's people out here, mothers, grandmothers that want to start a daycare facility, and we've got all kind of obstacles in the way. It's just too hard to get there. We have to cut back on our regulations in every facet of government.
So what has been the holdup on that so far, of getting the red tape and the obstacles on that particular issue?
I just don't think we've had a concerted effort like we have now. We're kind of, myself and Senator Bean work very close together. We had breakfast in one or the other's office every 2 weeks along with our state representatives to talk about issues that affect us directly, from Ironton to Cape Girardeau to New Madrid. And I think we're kind of got a concerted effort. Do we agree all the time? Absolutely not. But I think we agree that we need to push Southeast Missouri and these regulations. I see everybody, when I was talking, nodding out in the audience, everybody realizes that we just have to get where we need to be.
And just to add to that, I mean, there are a lot of state bureaucrats in Jefferson City that their entire job is to tell people all day long what they can't do. And, that is getting better. I'm very pleased to say it was beginning to get better during my time in Jeff City, but Governor Kehoe is very committed to reducing these regulations, reducing these red tape. These senators are as well, but it is changing a culture. And when you're trying to change a culture, it's sometimes easier to turn an aircraft carrier around, but it does have to change, absolutely, and it is, thankfully.
One of the problems was when last year that we had a problem with the state paying the daycare people, and they actually put some people out of business in some of the communities that I know of, and that's not any good. If you can't just take somebody's daycare away from them, because most families now, both of them have to work, and you've got to have a place for the kids to go. And I think maybe that's what you're talking about. It got some people in the world hurt, and a lot of people went out of business, and we need to get those people back and add to that.
And just to follow up on that, and Robert, you're so right. That culture of, let me make your life miserable almost. It's like, no, we are here to help people, not make things worse. I'm telling you, you're going to get me fired up. I'm going to get upset here. But no, absolutely, changing that culture and talking about that concerted effort. Senator Berger, and he does a great job. We do that great for Southeast Missouri, but you're starting to see that throughout the entire Senate now. Not, just having your groups. Finally, we're starting to get on the same page, which is very helpful as well. But yeah, my gosh, that culture has got to change, period.
So, big topic here. Missouri is strongly looking at eliminating the income tax. I think we're getting closer to that. We also know that the federal reimbursement, I think on Medicaid, is going to be less over time. How does the state of Missouri make ends meet, fund the programs that need to be funded? What's next? Not everybody at once.
Well, we're looking at definitely some economic interesting times coming up. We're looking at $1 billion in cuts, so I think, one, we've got to start looking at other sources of income that we've got to bring in. I think cutting the income tax, remember, we've had a system here that was created how many years ago? I think, so going back and looking at, this is the modern age, this is where we're at, and adjusting that. I think, and that is also, I think the big thing is when you cut that income tax, look at what is going to come to Missouri. I will tell you that when at a governor's forum, if you go in and when governors get up and introduce themselves, watch what happens when the Tennessee governor gets up and just says, we have zero income tax, and it's a round of applause through the room. So I think going to that is definitely going to bring, I think it's going to say, hey, Missouri, we've been wide open, we're more wide open than ever, and I think that change needs to happen sooner rather than later.
I think sometimes, whether you agree with these VLTs or not, they're in every convenience store, they're in, seem like every VFW hall, whatever it may be. If they are here to stay, there's no reason we shouldn't be taxing those things and making them legal, whether you agree with it or not, because they are here and they're not getting rid of them anytime soon. So that would be an offset in creating new income for the state of Missouri and lower income tax too. Sometimes I think we need to create a sales tax because income tax is paid by 100% by us, by Missourians. Where we have a sales tax and a consumption tax, that's paid for by people, not only in Missouri, but also people traveling through here. So if we could create a sales tax that would equal 60% of our income tax, and let the other 40% be paid for by people traveling through the state, I think that's another way to offset income, or we can get rid of the income tax.
I will take the other sort of side of your question that talked about Medicaid reimbursement rates, and we have to be honest with ourselves, which is Medicaid is a very significant portion of our healthcare infrastructure here in Southeast Missouri. We have a very significant portion of the population that relies on that for their health care coverage, and we're going to have to find a way to work with our federal partners to make sure that we don't lose, because the problem is you may not be on Medicaid, and that may not be your coverage. You may have other insurance. But if you go to a doctor that 70% of their patients are Medicaid patients, and that begins to restrict or go away, then we all lose access to that doctor. So, I think we really have to work and understand the significance that program plays in our part of the state and for our broader economy in general. Schools are the largest employer, I think was said earlier, in many places, but our healthcare providers are as well. And, that's just going to have to be something that we all keep an eye on.
Any specific industries, as we think about growing industries, bringing new business in to Missouri, Southeast Missouri in particular, are there any specific industries or sectors that you think that Southeast Missouri is particularly primed for right now?
Well, I'm a farmer. Guess what our number one industry is in Missouri? Agriculture. Over 33% of our agriculture products come from Southeast Missouri. We've got the river right here. Once again, we have the gateway to the world. I think we expand on that even more than ever. I mean, and we talk about that, and that's row crop. We look at cattle. Depending on the year, we're second or third in cow-calf production in the United States. We all know with cattle, we won't get into that discussion on the cattle industry right now, with some comments that have been made in the past couple of weeks here about it. Anyway, we'll just stop right there. But still, we can expand on that, and I think we are just wide open for that. Now, Senator Berger kind of touched on this, and I'm going to say this. He was talking about VLT, so what he's talking about is the video lottery terminals. That's what he's talking about, the gaming machines that you see in just about every filling station it seems like you go into now. If we look at regulating those and what they can bring to the state of Missouri, that has the potential to be $500 to $600 million. I'm going to say that again, $500 to $600 million. We're not getting rid of them. We're here. Let's regulate them. I think a lot of people, I hear this all the time. They're here. I come in, there's kids on those machines. So let's regulate them, make them right, and let's bring that money to the state.
When I think about our economic expansion too in Southeast Missouri, 85% of our aluminum is imported to the United States. Think about that. 85% of our aluminum is imported to the United States. We're sitting down in Central Beans District at New Madrid with a state-of-the-art aluminum manufacturing plant that just had a $1 million piece of equipment come in 2 weeks before it shut down from Italy or France somewhere. We need investors to invest in that. There's no reason that we can't compete with overseas suppliers of aluminum. That's 1,000 jobs. And think about 1,000 jobs in Southeast Missouri times 7, because every job you create has 7 support jobs outside of that. That's a good start right there, which would be a mega start. When I think about 85% of our aluminum being imported, I just don't think that's fair. I think we need to make it here, promote USA first.
You talked about what we should be looking at, especially in our part of the world, is distribution center. You just opened one in Cape. We've got 2 in Sikeston. With the highways we've got, we need to think about what we can attract, and we have the highways for it. And the room for them, and they're not the highest paying jobs, but the cleanest jobs, and you don't have an environmental problem because they don't put anything out to do that. So one of the things that we did in Sikeston was we looked real hard at distribution and anything that needs the highways to service.
And I will add and agree with all 3 individuals and what they've highlighted, and just put on top of that, perhaps as a cherry on top, is we have a community college in Poplar Bluff that is ready, willing, and able to launch customized training for any of these industries that come in the door almost immediately. And it's a turnkey, and the amount of flexibility and the capacity that we have to train workers to do specific jobs. And we have a community college that's proven their ability to do that over and over again. And a lot of places can't say that. So, not only do we have the space, the affordability, and the advantages that have been mentioned, but we can get those workers appointed the right way and trained up very, very quickly. And time, many times, and Ed knows this far better than I do, but for businesses looking to locate somewhere, A lot of times their question is, how quickly can we open the doors, and how quickly can we begin to get product out? And we have some advantages in that regard here in Southeast Missouri.
Robert, I'm glad you mentioned that. I don't know if most or many folks in the room know, but programs like Missouri One Start, which is, I think, one of the great programs in the state, is when you think about training, whether it's customized training for large industrial companies that are doing a big CapEx, or whether it's smaller companies that you can do credentialed or what's called upskilling, and you can work with a community college or another education provider to get your employees upskilled, where they're eligible for a promotion. Not that they're going to get that next promotion, but that's moving them up in the ranks and making them more valuable employees, also making them more valuable to your company. So from Missouri One Start to Missouri Works, which is the job recruiting, job creation incentive, two really big things that I think Missouri does and does well that helps in that regard. Absolutely. We talked about infrastructure, roads, broadband, utilities. What do you think are the most critical investments needed to support those areas right now in Southeast Missouri? You got several projects ongoing, but do you see more investments in those areas that are going to be needed in the short term?
I think the data centers are coming to Southeast Missouri. I think the data centers are coming to Missouri. I don't know that we have the electricity to support those things. I think the biggest thing is working with our utilities company. We did pass Senate Bill 4 this year, which gives the utility companies the ability to start raising funds to build these gas-fired generation plants to power more power across the grid. We have to do that to accept those things. We have to make sure that we accept them in Southeast Missouri, because we do have the fiber, we do have the water, we do have the workforce, we do have the land. So I think anytime we can improve our infrastructure, build it, they will come. At the same time, pouring concrete, laying asphalt, improving our road system that benefits everyone.
Well, at the risk of sounding like a one-trick pony, and I'm probably going to steal some of Senator Bean's thunder, but I think in terms of infrastructure, the most important thing for us is to get Interstate 57 finished to the state line, and to link up with the work that's going on in Arkansas. The state made that funding commitment, and it's important that MoDOT follow through with that, because the sad thing is you look a lot of places and you see things, good ideas that come along that have initial support, and they don't get completed all the way. Whether that's a road project, whether that's a port that's never fully developed to its potential, etc. And when we launch these efforts, we need to see them through to the finish. And I appreciate the senators here, and Senator Bean has been tremendous in holding MoDOT's feet to the fire, because we want to get this project done. It's a game changer, not only for Poplar Bluff, but for the entire region.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, as you know, what I feel about Interstate 57, and yes, MoDOT has promised me that construction will never stop. But we live in a state that we really don't generate a lot of power, and I think that's something that we always need to realize. Bringing, whether that be the gas power plants, it's frustrating. I think it's frustrating when we're shutting down coal power plants here in America, and China has opened up like 30. That's pretty frustrating to me. Once again, electricity, we have passed in legislation that we are a pass-through state with those transmission lines, saying if you're going to pass through the state, you're going to drop power, and it's going to be affordable power. So we are doing stuff like that. I think that's very important. But also, looking at the internet. I mean, let's face it, this is the world that we are in today. So I think continuing to make, continuing to, build our infrastructure when it comes to rural broadband is very important.
Young people don't get the message, hey, I have to leave Southeast Missouri. I have to go to Chicago, or I have to go to Dallas or Nashville or somewhere like that, to be able to live the kind of high-tech lifestyle I would like to live. I think we've got some room to work in that regard, and, because again, it comes back to your workforce, it's keeping young people here.
Well, I'll say this, anytime we come up with a new thing, it's always how we embrace it. And I just saw a report the other day that AI, they can't tell the difference. I mean, they're getting where they can't tell the difference. So there may be a video of me standing up here saying, something that is totally false that I didn't say, and you almost can't tell the difference. I think it's going to be interesting, just so you know, in this next election cycle, you're going to see one of the first election cycles with AI, and it's going to be interesting. And it seems like the public trust of elected officials is wishy-washy anyway. You throw AI in, what's that going to do? But going back to how you embrace that and how you do it, our daughter was writing a paper on she was writing an essay to a college. I found it very frustrating that if they saw that she was using AI, they'd kick the paper out. Well, that shouldn't be right anyway. I mean, maybe she came up with the same thing. So I think, once again, how we embrace that technology is something that we need to stay on top of that.
Any questions from the audience? I want to turn the attention now to you all. We got a mic over there.
Yeah, this is Jerry Lynch while I was with the county. My question to the whole set, very, very patient. I was on the hospital board, served continuously for 17 years, rural hospital, keep it open. It didn't happen because we didn't have the funding. Rural hospitals has become critical for this state of Missouri, and not only but back in Ripley County, we have three different businesses that are over 1,000, 1,500 people. And we don't have, we don't have a doctor in Ripley County. And I spent 17 years continuously to keep the hospital open, and the funding went away. Not blaming anybody, but we really need to work on getting rural hospitals back in our state. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
That's a great point, and Shaky, just so you know, I've been actually working on this for about 5 years. It's public information, but we have about approximately $30 million set aside for a potential rural hospital. I think the whole landscape of a hospital has changed, and we have the potential to have the model rural hospital, not just for Missouri, but for the United States, that we can start building. I think you have to look at where we live and our Medicaid rates. I mean, we talked about Medicaid earlier. I have one county that 50% of the population is on Medicaid. So in order for that hospital to stay feasible and to bring good quality health care, I think there's, it's just a different model that we're looking at. I think we're looking at a model that has an emergency room, that has a 24-hour pharmacy, that has holding beds so that we can get you to a bigger hospital but once again, something that we need here that will take care of several communities. I tell this to a lot of people in Scotland County, Missouri, if you know where that is, that hospital services 6 or 7 counties. But like I say, the model hospital that we've had for so many years in our small towns like Kennet or like Doniphan, those are not feasible. You have to go to a different model. So I think we're looking at how you fund that and how you make that successful, because we want that. And a lot of things that at times people don't understand. If you're in St. Louis, did you know in places in St. Louis you are 30 minutes from an ER? So I think people have to keep that open. Also with the designations that we have through the federal government, Madison, I know you're here and you'll be glad to answer all these questions, but getting that RAY designation to get the highest reimbursement rates also are important. So anyway.
How do you get doctors? Because I know that's part of the question too, is how do you get doctors into some of these rural areas? It's not only getting the funding and getting the hospitals open, but it's also the talent attraction.
I'll keep on going if you want. Robert, you go ahead.
I think we need more medical training here in the state. We need more residencies for physicians. We've had extreme shortages in that regard. And I know, I can touch on immigration. That's a hot topic. However, the J-1 visas that allow us to bring medical professionals in from other countries. I mean, these aren't the illegals that are committing crime. These are highly skilled individuals that have been trained. They want to come here to be trained and that are willing to come into our communities. But I think back to the financing piece of the matter. We've had a program that's been designed to pay when people get sick, and we're trying to transform that into a program that pays for people to be well, because ultimately we want a healthier population. But it's harnessing those savings and reinvesting those into the community so that we do have the rural hospital and healthcare infrastructure that we need that really hasn't been done. And we've got some great people from Governor Kehoe on down in Jeff City that are working on a transformational approach for rural health care, and I think the dollars that the Trump administration is sending to the states to do that, I think we're going to see some exciting opportunities for a lot of our communities here.
Question?
Yes. Hello? All right. Sorry. Thank you all for being here. My name is James Collins. I'm from Piedmont. And people usually regret asking me to come to these because I don't believe in coming to these and being quiet. So I'm going to ask you a couple questions actually. You all brought a lot of wonderful information, but what I heard, or what I've heard so far, is stuff that benefits people who are right along a highway. All right, we're in Piedmont, we're not right along a major highway. How do we get that workforce that we need here in the rural area that you get, I say you guys, but people benefit that are right along a highway? How do we get that in the rural, off the beaten path areas? Because a lot of us come from small towns that aren't right along a major highway. And another thing I had was, you were talking about the internet. We still have a lot of places around here that are dead spots. So I don't know. How do we get that workforce to get active and mobile here when we have a lot of unique challenges? We have a community, at least here in Wayne County, I believe, that are perfectly fine just getting by. And so they're not out there looking for jobs. How do we get them motivated to get out there and start looking for jobs? Even if we were to bring in a factory, we don't have the people that want to work to get to work. How do we get them to want to work?
Well, I think it's how we structure our social safety net programs, because if the incentive is not to work, then people are not going to work. But if the incentive is to work, or removes the barriers that exist for individuals, whether that's an individual that may have a disability, or an individual that's had involvement in the criminal justice system, or individuals that have simply never have been able to subsist without having to work. I think as the federal and the state government continue the efforts to reimagine and to reform our benefit programs in a way that make that the outcome, I think that will make a difference. And certainly, variety of communities in southeast Missouri, and we all have different challenges, but one of the things, I think that's one of our real strengths is regionalism, because what's good for Poplar Bluff is good for Greenville, and what's good for Doniphan is good for Van Buren, and there are a lot of people that work in Poplar Bluff that choose to live in Piedmont, or they choose to live in Doniphan, and working together. And so our businesses see that concentration of individuals, and they want to do business there. They may want to open a store, open a business, or offer healthcare services, etc., in our rural communities. So it really does come down to working together. And I think as long as we're focused on that regionalism, I think we'll all benefit to a great extent.
If we knew the answer to that, we would be 4 rich men sitting up here. It's hard to make somebody work that don't want to work. And if you make it easy for them not to work, they're not going to work. I mean, there's only so much motivation. Usually the need is what makes you motivated. And there's people that are not very needy.
Going back to your comment on rural broadband, we keep on making those investments, and I think also making those investments into new technology. Once again, for where I grew up at, going that mile doesn't cost a lot of money, and you can hit a lot of people. When you get into the hills and all that, it's frustrating. So, more technology. Just so you know, I grew up in a little community called Pumpkin Center, not Pumpkin. So I totally get it. But making sure that those investments into infrastructure on the highways is not just on the 4 lanes. Making sure that the highway is good from Piedmont to 67. Making sure those investments are continuing to be made as well. Going back to this workforce, I get frustrated. That's all I've ever done my whole life is work. I don't get it. So I think it's just culture, once again, investing into programs that, you know, are good for the whole area. I agree 100%, you know, what's right for Piedmont is also right and good for Poplar Bluff and vice versa, or Greenville and both. But I think it's just, you know, we're in a culture thing, and it's interesting. I think we're fixing to be in one of the first areas where we all want to make things better for our kids. I think we're fixing to hit a generation where we can't do that. I think I've seen that and I've heard that, and that's frustrating to me because I want to do what's better, but I think we're fixing to be, you know, and I think that's when there could be a little bit of, you know, figure this out, that, you know, like the text message I told you I had. This 18-year-old said, in order to support what I want to do, you know, eat what I want to eat, I got to work. Hey, that's good. That's what we've got to do.
Yes.
Karen White. I'm actually from Eminence, but most of y'all know me from working throughout Missouri Highlands and the region. So thank you all very much for sharing your insight. I'm going to take a different viewpoint and ask a question. I think some of y'all have heard me say this a million times. If you want to fix healthcare, you have to fix jobs. In order to fix jobs, you have to fix education. So give me your insights on the future of funding of education within our rural areas, and especially in the light of the changing economics that we see, the changes that are coming in from either reducing or eliminating income tax, and increasing a sales tax. Most of us know that our local school districts are funded by property tax. Is there a way, because again, back to the point of what benefits Poplar Bluff also benefits Piedmont, but the folks that are living here, you know, don't always see that sales tax come trickling this way. We definitely don't see it in Eminence. So just curious as to what your thoughts are for the future as far as education.
You know what, I'm not on the budget, Senator Bean is on the budget. One thing I always think about the state of Missouri, we can kind of fund what we want to fund at times, you know what I mean? And we have to set our priorities where those need to be. You know, when we talk about open enrollment, I'm not a big fan of open enrollment. I'm pressed about that all the time. Is that something that I can get to, possibly maybe one of these days? But I think a lot of our towns, small communities, the school is the focus of that town. Once you lose that focus of that school in that small community, you see those small communities really decline pretty fast. They kind of lose their grocery store, they lose whatever else they may have, so they don't have much to offer after they lose the face of their school. But at the same time, we fund 529 public schools in the state of Missouri at the same time. And when we talk about consolidation, believe me, they want to hang me from these rafters in Scott County. But do we go to that point? You know, I know there's one community in north central Missouri that has one high school, but within 25 miles of that, they have 8 K through 8 grade schools. Is that fair to have administration and funding for all those schools at the same time? That's a big drag on the state of Missouri's budget. Does anybody of those 8 want to lose their schools? Absolutely not. Does any one of those 8 have a reason to keep their school? Yes, they do. But I think at some point in time, we have to take a hard look at that. We have to have public school superintendents take a hard look at that. We have to have public school people that support public schools like myself look at that too, to say, hey, what are we going to do to make sure we can survive? We can't continue to pay out 529 schools. We just can't do it. It just doesn't make sense. I'm retired from a cement plant in South Cape called Lone Star, now it's called Boots Unigem. If we were to continue to do business in 2025, as we did in 1995, you know where we'd be? Broke. And we have to look at that as we fund state government at the same time.
So, first of all, as Senator Berger said, the same way, I mean, when I first got elected, if you even said the word consolidation, I better just take off running. It's interesting, I do see that starting to change a little bit now. I've got some school districts coming to me asking questions. I do think there are ways that we can do that and we don't lose our school and our communities, and we can pull together resources and do a lot better job. This is, I mean, education reform, I've heard this since I've been in the building, and I will tell you that this is one thing that I will tell you, in rural Missouri, we do education right. And there is a big divide between urban and rural. And we fight that. In fact, just so you know, that's our biggest fight in the Missouri Senate. It's not Democrat, Republican. It's urban, suburban versus rural. Going back to your point on property taxes, remember, property taxes are the one that gets everybody riled up, and because you have to write a check for it. I mean, you get that in December at the worst possible time. But I think, I'm going to get off on this just a second, but when you look at the tax codes for the state of Missouri, I do find it sometimes we have to be careful. If you start doing this and you start doing this, sometimes you get yourself in trouble. I believe in looking at everything as a whole. And just to give you an example on property tax, I could be wrong on this, but I believe it's like $1.7 billion a year that we generate in all of our counties. You can kind of do the math on that, going back to a sales tax base to make that work. Now, then it goes back to the question of, you get into a little bit of that debate, once again, going back to the urban versus rural areas. I'll tell you just real quick, a point that was made to me, or moving back up, a comment that was made to me. They said, well, if we get all this sales tax income here, and I won't say what, it might have been St. Louis or it might have been Kansas City, well, it should be ours. I said, okay, that's fine. But when you get hungry, it's going to cost you. That's my point. We've got to look at it as a whole. So, very good points, and that's, I think when you look at, like I say, especially with the tax code, we've got to look at it as a whole, and I think it is time to make some changes.
Yeah, the way that our education system is organized was done many years ago, and has not changed with the times. We're fortunate in Poplar Bluff. We have great public schools. We have parochial schools. We have a very vibrant homeschool community. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I think the state is headed toward a system where hopefully dollars follow the students, and parents can be put in charge of the decisions, in terms of educating their children. And I think at the end of the day, probably parents will be able to self-select and self-sort our our education system in a way that probably better serves our community than what we've had for a long time. But I certainly don't envy our policymakers, because it is a very tough road to get there.
Thank you, gentlemen, for coming down to Piedmont, Missouri, and speaking to us today. It's really great that you're taking an interest in what's going down here. I want to thank Mr. Club for orchestrating this as well. I just want to bring up a couple of things that have really impacted me as a business owner here in Piedmont. And I want to champion what Jamie was saying about there is a difference between like Poplar Bluff, and I know that it is a cascading effect on getting benefit from those more metropolitan areas into local areas. But a couple of issues that are really weighing on me right now is one, insurance. Okay, I'm paying a tremendous amount of money in property insurance, and I did the calculations last night just so I could say it today. Over $60,000 a year in just property insurance. It's too much. There's no way to sustain that. You can't be a business owner and have those types of insurance rates. And I don't know how to tackle that because they are private. If there's some way to help curb the amount that they're charging us. On another insurance is flood insurance. So we have a lot of flooding down here. Those lines are drawn in a way that the vast majority of the people that live around these rivers, because that's where they put the public, their homes and buildings and businesses, are in Zone A. And right now, if you're holding a note on any of these properties, you're probably paying more for flood insurance than you are for mortgage. So it's a tremendous impact on the ability to buy homes in this area. Back to the taxes. So income tax, no problem. I pay $0 in income tax because I spend more money than I make. But the sales tax I got checks for sales tax every year and the property taxes. The taxes and the insurance is everything that I make. I wish there was ways to curb that. And it kind of comes back to the lady from Eminence, where's the next, what's the real precursor to jobs? And that's money. People have to start spending money here, and they're not going to come here and spend it if they don't have some way to tap into the worldwide market fiber. We don't have it. I just found out that the BEAD funding, that one of the businesses I have near Clearwater Lake, we're stuck with Boycom. I had a tree fall on my lines.
Stuck with what?
The BEAD funding, yeah, we're on Clearwater Lake. A tree fell on my lines, the Boycom lines, they laid there for 4 months till I stopped paying them. They refused to come and fix them. And now they just got the contract for our fiber. So that business has to be sold. There's no, because every time someone comes down here, if any one of us pull out our cell phone right now, there is no reception to that phone. We're not gonna have reception and we're not gonna have fiber, so we are disconnected down here. So those are the kind of things that are really impacting me as a business owner here. And I don't know precisely what you can do to help with those things, but if you can, it would be much, much appreciated.
I used to say it was the California fires that were causing our insurance problems. And to some extent, probably it is. But we have our fair share of storms that's causing insurance as well. But I'll turn it over to you all. Thoughts?
I just want you to know, I feel for the flood insurance. I mean, like I said, my farm's in Peach Orchard, Missouri, and to do a grain bin project, I mean, the flood insurance is almost kills the project. So I understand that. And, you know, I know there's been a lot of discussions from the state level to the national level. And, yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, I absolutely hear what you're saying, and I feel it as well. It's gotten just completely out of hand.
You know, one of the things that I'm excited about, and, you know, Senator Bean and I especially have spent a lot of time this year on disaster relief, unfortunately. You know, we've had a lot going on, but, you know, one of the reforms that, you know, I know our federal partners, you know, are working on with the Trump administration is really sort of changing the approach of FEMA and how they operate in a way that will invest more dollars into resilience. Because there is work that could be done on our rivers, and you know, we talk about what a great advantage the Mississippi River is, but there's work that could be done along the Black River, the St. Francis River, etc., you know, that could reduce flooding risk, and hopefully we can get some of this property re-rated if we can actually reduce those flooding risks and make that insurance a lot more affordable. But you know, again, those are large investments, and they're investments that are going places where candidly not a lot of people live. But, you know, water continues to flow and ultimately reaches somewhere where people do live. So, you know, I think it is really not taking your eye off the ball, you know, when it comes to those resiliency investments and trying to make some positive changes to our waterways and really where that risk comes from, you know, that creates the issues that drive those insurance costs, because it does. It puts people out of business.
On the broadband issue, what are the big hurdles right now, you know, for some of these rural communities that are trying to get broadband but still have these dead spot areas? Where do you see the big challenges?
You know, I think it's always in funding. You know, when it's not about the money, what is it about? The money. You know, making sure that we can fund those to get to remote locations like the gentleman spoke about. We have to supply fiber to everyone, just like they did 100 years ago, supplying electricity to everyone. I mean, that's where we have to get, and it's just a matter of money. And the governor's all behind that. Representative Lewis Riggs, who's from northeast Missouri, is the champion of that right now. And as a matter of fact, I got an email from him this week. There's been some funding cuts that we're contesting to make sure that those funding resources still come through to continue to expand fiber infrastructure across all of Missouri.
I think we have time for just a couple more questions. We have one here and one over there, one here as well. So we'll go quickly. Jump in here.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Prince Wright. I'm a reporter for Daily American Republic. I want to thank the lady from Eminence sorry for mentioning education. I know earlier, Mr. Robert, you said that it's easier to turn an aircraft than it is to change culture. And I do believe, you know, as a 28-year-old young man who has traveled all over the world speaking before thousands of people in ministry, one thing I've realized in this generation is the area of mindset, right, which goes right into culture. Earlier you guys were speaking about, you know, churches starting childcare programs, you know, daycare centers, you know, et cetera. And I know that this is a workforce economic development program form. So my question for you today would be, I know that we're making schools safer here in the U.S. What would be your thoughts on also making schools more interesting for students that are attending school, not just high school and college, but for those earlier on, and not just attending school or being more interesting, but for them to be more hands-on instead of spending so many hours stuck in the book or in the classroom, allowing them to get their hands, more dirty in different areas that I think would probably allow them to be more interested in the workforce that they're, coming into after they graduate school.
I don't know if I can talk about elementary yet, but I can talk about high school education. I visited Orion High School, which is in my district, Thursday, and they've created a couple of programs. They've got a CNC machine. They're printing their own T-shirts now for all their events. Before, they were spending $8 to $9 per T-shirt and then having to spend $2 or $3 to get the graphics designed and everything put on, so it would cost them $12 or $13. They're doing that as a class now, and they created it as economic development. Those kids design those shirts. They buy the shirts from a supplier naturally, but then they do the design on a computer. They take it to the CNC machine and instruct it on the application to the shirts. Then they actually press their shirts. Right now, after they get completed, there's $4 in those T-shirts, and they're selling them to the community for $8. Those are the type of things we need to do. That creates a business opportunity because it creates children how to run a business, how to be profitable, to make sure they control their losses. Also, I think at some point in time, to return to high school, we have to have first and second hour welding. We have to have fifth and sixth hour gas engines. I think anything we can do to promote kids to buy in, to make it more interesting. I was a terrible student. I mean terrible because I didn't care nothing about it. But my dad made me care about it, so I kept going to school. I always say that I learned to weld in first and second hour at Kelly High School. That opened me up to my job opportunity at the cement plant. And I worked in operations and maintenance for 7 years, and I was eventually promoted to be one of the managers. If I didn't have that skill or I didn't have that talent, that door's not open. But if we offer that in high school at no cost, that our taxes are already paying for, why would we not do that? When I went to Orion High School and they showed me this T-shirt expansion they had, I thought, we need to hear about these things in Jeff City. We need to be doing these things across every school, in Piedmont, in Clearwater, in Marble Hill, wherever it may be. And I don't think we've expanded that opportunity. I always tell our superintendents when I meet with them, think outside the box. Everybody can teach history. Everybody can teach math. Let's teach kids how to work. Let's teach kids how to buy into be more therapeutic, that if you have a job, you're better off. I spoke on the Senate floor not too long ago, and I said, growing up in Southeast Missouri, I didn't know you couldn't work. It was never an option for us. And I think we got to get back to that.
I think we had a question right here.
My name's Bill Master, and keep talking about the Mississippi River. There was one point where they was going to put turbines in there for electricity. And that was going to, that was going to create a lot of jobs, not just there, but through our communities. They have to have parts, they have to have workers to keep it going. It could be something, a lot of electricity can be made from the Mississippi. There was red tape though, a lot of red tape, and that's what stopped it. What do you think about it?
I mean, I 100% agree to get rid of the red tape. Anything that we can do, absolutely. The interesting thing about the Mississippi River, did you know there's more navigable river miles in the Mississippi River Basin than the entire world combined? So once again, making sure we keep that river open is very important. I mean, we've gone through these droughts and we can't, so that's also important. But any investment we can make into our river, I'm 100% behind, and have been.
We're only touching the minute opportunity along the Mississippi River. And I worked next to it for 40 years, and my family farmed next to it for 40 years. We need to, one thing, myself and Senator Beadle both running for Senate leadership. He's running to be pro tem, I'm running to be assistant majority floor leader. I think we have to direct more state resources toward development of our infrastructure on the river. We're not taking advantage of it. Every time we put a barge on the river, that takes 100 trucks off our highways. Think about that. For the safety aspect and also for the transportation costs. We have to continue to promote the river. I think it benefits us all as in Southeast Missouri as we develop more things along the river. 2 weeks ago, I've been pushing for who's ever heard of Commerce, Missouri? It's a small community in Scott County. It's very small. It's at the head of the mainline levee for the Mississippi River. We have an open view of the river at Commerce, Missouri. I've been trying to get a boat dock there for years. Can't get it done. Eventually, I will, but I have to build it myself. But last 2 weeks ago, the city of Cape Girardeau had to go to Thebes, Illinois, to put their boats out for training. Now think about that. Think about that. I think Missouri were missing the boat. I'd like that tie in. But when the city of Cape has to go to Thebes, Illinois, instead of coming down 15 miles south to Commerce, Missouri, there's something wrong. We have to expand our river accesses.
I want to thank our panel. Can we give them a round of applause? We're getting ready to turn it over to lunch. I'll let Denny dismiss us for that. Thank you all.
First off, I want to say thank you for having us and being an engaged crowd. I think, myself and Senator Bean, our doors are always open. Senator Bean said anytime you come to the Capitol, he would be glad to buy lunch.
Hey, I want to buy lunch, and guess who's going to buy dinner? Hey, and it's great, once again, great to be here. And Senator Berger, I'm glad you're finally in a good county.
Let's give them another round of applause. All of our speakers, they're not being paid to be here. They're here because they love rural Missouri and they're actually taking part of that. Also, just a note to Senator Bean, Senator Berger, and I can say this because I'm friends with them, but Lord willing, you guys get in leadership, make sure you put SEMO first, okay? Just do what you can for us. Appreciate it. We're gonna pray over the food. I'm gonna give them instructions in that in just a second. One thing, a couple just thoughts over the last several conversations is, one is we need to remember too that our economies don't stop at the city line, they don't stop at the county line. We all live off of each other. Of course, we all go to the Commonwealth, we all go to Cape, etc. So just remember that when you're promoting your businesses, promote outside to draw in as well. And also the value of relationships. This event here today is because of the relationships. So if there's somebody in here you don't know, reach out to them, meet them, talk to them, whether they're elected officials or guest speakers, whether it's just somebody you have no idea, maybe somebody that asked a question, reach out, spread those boundaries, spread your horizons, reach out those relationships, because again, that's going to be the value there. All right, as far as for lunch, what we're going to do is we're going to start off over here, right? We're going to start off inside the room. You're going to take your plate, you're going to go back over the other room, you're going to get your food, you're going to come back, and you're going to eat. And then that's the gist of that, pretty straightforward. We have coffee back there. We do have tea and water on the table. That is sweet tea. Over by the coffee, there is some unsweet tea as well. We're in the South here, but if you need unsweet tea, we have some. There's the two canisters are going to be the caffeinated coffee. The one by itself is decaf. Also, once we get eating, desserts and stuff will be up here at the front as well. So coffee, everything over there. Once everybody gets through line and it kind of simmers down some, then we'll kind of get on with the rest of the program. So that hour variable just is kind of there for reference. So anyways, let's go ahead and go to the Lord in prayer, and then we'll start over here and let those people go and then just kind of follow suit there. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we just thank you. Thank you, Lord Jesus, just for dying for our sins. Thank you for, Lord, shedding your blood for us while we were unworthy, Lord. Thank you for this place here, the ministry here. Thank you for the representation that's up here today, Father. Thank you for those that attended. Thank you for the meal as well. I ask you to bless it. Thank you for Eagle Sky for preparing it, Lord. Pray that you'll be the rest of this afternoon. In Jesus' name, amen.
Hi, I'm Secretary of State Denny Hoskins from Warrensburg, Missouri. So Warrensburg's about 6 hours from here if you go north and a little west. So it's a pleasure to be down here, back here in southeast Missouri. It's great to see so many familiar faces too. This is obviously, it's not my first time, not my first rodeo, not my first time down here in southeast Missouri. And as I was driving over here, coming up from Poplar Bluff, I even saw Patterson, and I'm like, I can remember being at an event there about a year ago. So I want to first off by thanking our moderator and Denny and our outstanding panelists that we had earlier here today. You all did tremendous work representing your communities and keeping your economy strong. And it's an honor to follow you today and be part of this important conversation about Missouri's workforce and economic future. So a little bit about me. I was elected a year ago. I'm a certified public accountant. That's what we refer to as a real job back when we were in the legislature. I was a state rep for 8 years, a state senator for 8 years, small business owner, former chairman of the Senate Economic Development Committee. I served on the Budget Committee when I was in the House and served on the Appropriations Committee in the Senate. And one of the bills I always like to advertise that I actually passed when I was in the legislature was the Big Government Get Off My Back Act. It said no new rules or regulations on our small businesses, so our small businesses can focus on marketing and selling their product, not worried about, oh my gosh, I can't wait to fill out this new government paperwork that they've changed, and I'm just so excited about filling out more paperwork. That's not what we want. So we passed that when I was in the House. It did have a sunset on it, and sunset, I believe, about 6 years. It also had some tax incentives and tax deductions for companies and small businesses with under 25 employees. So I'm very familiar with small businesses. I've been a small business owner myself, as well as supported small businesses throughout my time in the legislature. So I've got some prepared remarks because my staff, they get a little worried when I don't have prepared remarks about what I might say. So I got some prepared remarks, and then we're going to open up for questions, all right? So I want to talk a little bit about what exactly the Secretary of State does, because I found when I was on the campaign trail a little over a year ago, and I'd say, hey, I'm Denny Hoskins, running for Secretary of State, people would say, hey, don't take offense to this, but I'm not sure what you do, all right? So the Secretary of State's office has about 200 employees and $71 million of your taxpayer budget. So we're based out of Jefferson City, but we do have 3 satellite offices across the state, St. Louis, Springfield, as well as Kansas City. Those satellite offices are business services offices. And so if you have problems with anything to do with business services, and I'll talk a little bit about what exactly is in business services, you can always either call in to our Jeff City office, or you can call or go visit in person one of our business services offices. So everywhere I travel in Missouri, I'm always reminded that our state's strength doesn't come from government buildings in Jeff City. It comes from communities like this one, Piedmont, and all the surrounding communities here. It comes from small business owners opening up shop before sunrise, the high school teacher mentoring the next generation of leaders, and the local employers training workers for the jobs of tomorrow. Economic growth is built on local partnerships between businesses, education, and government, and that's what exactly today's forum represents. As your Secretary of State, I made it my mission to make government work better for the people who fund it, you, the people in this room. In business services, we've cut red tape, improved our response times, and made it easier than ever before to maintain a business or nonprofit in Missouri. Whether it's filing an LLC, registering a nonprofit, renewing a corporation, registering a fictitious name, registering as a notary public, our goal is to keep that process fast, fair, and friendly. And we've done a lot, tried to do a lot to make our website. That was one of my goals, is to make our website even more friendly, business friendly, so you didn't have to click through 15 different things to find exactly what you wanted. I'm one of only 10 Secretary of States that has actually a securities division. And when I talk about securities division, I'm talking about investments. And so we actually, no matter where I go, I always have somebody come up to me afterwards and say, hey, can you give me that number again? Where do I need to get that? So our securities division, actually I had investigators, I had the director of securities enforcement, kind of like a prosecutor. I know we got one prosecutor in here today. And I have a securities commissioner. So if you or someone you know, whether it's a grandparent, whether it's a neighbor, whether it's a friend, have been scammed out of investments, whether that's one of these tech scams or crypto or some deal that was just too good to be true and you had to invest in it and all of a sudden you got ghosted, I've got lots of examples of that. We have folks who will, investigators, we have a prosecutor, we have a securities commissioner that can help get restitution for you. And you can find that on our Secretary of State's website, sos.mo.gov. And then we also have our state library, state archives, the Wolfner Talking Book and Braille Library. We're preserving Missouri's story while making information accessible to everyone. A well-informed citizen is an empowered citizen, and that's how we strengthen both democracy and our economy. Now, of course, another big part of my job is elections. So I always say elections make the headlines, right? So we all hear about elections. Out of 200 employees, I have 10 people that work in the elections department. 10 people. But that is what makes all the elections. So since I took office in January of 2025, we've taken off over 200,000 ineligible voters off the voter rolls, including 50,000 deceased voters. Now, why is that important? Because we only want eligible voters to vote here in the state. And we've taken that a little bit further. We're working with the federal government on the SAVE database in order to make sure that we don't have any non-citizens voting here in the state of Missouri. We sent off our first batch. We've got that batch back. We're going to be sending out some letters to a few folks that we weren't able to confirm that they were actually a citizen here in the state of Missouri. And then we've been working on memorandum of understandings with other states to compare our voter rolls with their voter rolls. Because I can guarantee you that we don't want anybody that moved from Missouri over to Illinois still driving back and voting in Missouri elections. And I can guarantee you that Illinois doesn't want anybody that used to live in Illinois that moved to Missouri driving back and voting their elections as well. So we've got memorandum of understandings with Kentucky as well as Kansas, and we're working on the other surrounding states to do that as well. And then we got a lot of snowbirds here in the state of Missouri. Not me, but we got a lot of folks that like to move down to Florida and go down to Florida for the winter, and so we're working with the state of Florida and doing that as well. We want Missourians to have full confidence that their elections are run fairly, accurately, and according to the law. That's not a partisan goal, that's just good government. I want to talk about, speaking of the law, I want to talk about Senate Bill 22. So Senate Bill 22 is something that the legislature gave the Secretary of State new powers this year. And this new law, sponsored by Senator Rick Bratton from Cass County, Missouri, passed with strong support. It created a clear, fair, and transparent process for how the Secretary of State's office writes ballot language for constitutional amendments. Now, I like to joke that the Secretary of State's office might be one of the most frequently sued agencies in the state of Missouri. And that's okay. It comes with the territory. When you're responsible for business filings, securities enforcement, public records, libraries, and elections, well, you get to see the inside of the courtroom every now and then, and that's fine. And that's all right, because at the end of the day, my job isn't to make everyone happy. My oath was to you, the voters here in the state of Missouri, and to the Constitution of the state of Missouri. So, Senate Bill 22, it gives me 3 bites at the apple to write language that's going to be on the ballot. So we've got, currently I think there's 4 things that are guaranteed to be on the ballot. Amendment 1 has to do with the renewal of the sales tax for the Department of Conservation. Amendment 2 is to make all your county assessors elected. Amendment 3 is the pro-life amendment. Amendment 4 is initiative petition reform to make it a little harder to put something in the Missouri Constitution. So there's lots of different things that are going on. I'm also happy to share that the language that I proposed to the courts, so the courts used to write all the language. If somebody sued the legislature and the courts decided that, hey, they don't like that language, then the courts are the ones that wrote that language. With this new powers to the Secretary of State, I get 3 bites at the apple to write that language and make sure it's fair and accurate. And I'm proud to say that so far, knock on wood, the courts have agreed with me rewriting some of the language and has said that it's both fair and accurate on several different things. And that's how it should be, because Missourians deserve an honest process, not an outcome crafted by out-of-state activists or political operatives. So, as we look into the future, my focus will be on 3 things: transparency, accountability, and service. We're going to continue making it easier to do business here in the state of Missouri. And hopefully you can see that if you've been on the website and looked at some of the changes we want on the website. I said I want to make it as easy as possible to create a business here in the state of Missouri, whether that's a limited liability company, whether that's a partnership, whether that's a new nonprofit. We're going to continue to make that easier. We're going to continue protecting investors and consumers, like I talked about with the securities. I mean, there's some of the stories that I've heard that people have gone to the bank got a cashier's check for the life savings, took out a home equity loan, maxed out the credit cards, and the lady from St. Louis, she sent off a $150,000 cashier's check to New York for some scam and got ghosted. And so that's your life savings. And as business owners, I've got a perfect example. We're getting scammed, and many times there's lots of different scams out there. Yesterday, I tried to use my debit card at Burger King, and it was denied. I'm like, what in the heck is going on? I just got this new debit card because my other one expired. So I called in, and they were like, well, did you make a purchase at such and such and such and such? And I was like, no, I did not. And they said, well, somebody's using your debit card. And as business owners, I know we've all probably been there at least once before. And with the increased use of artificial intelligence, I mean, they can take my voice and make clips of that and actually call into my office and pretend like they are me and, hey, I need this, or hey, I need that. And so it's, I'm excited about some of the things that artificial intelligence can do, but there's also a lot still to learn. And so I would caution you as community leaders and business leaders, make sure that, hey, when somebody calls you, you know who it is, ask for a number, call them back, because we see so many scams today in today's world, and that's very, very unfortunate. Missouri is strong because Missourians are strong, including people here in this room. And when we work together in our communities, in our schools, and in our state government, there's no limit to what we can accomplish. Now, in closing, before we take questions, I want to thank the organizers of this event for bringing everybody here together, talk about solutions and not just politics. That's what leadership looks like. To my friends that were on the stage and obviously in this room today, thank you for your partnership, your service, and your friendship. I'm proud to work alongside you for the people of Missouri. And for everyone here today, thank you for investing your time, energy, and ideas in the future of the state. God bless you, God bless Southeast Missouri, and God bless the great state of Missouri. Thank you. So now, I think we'll open it up for questions. I like answering questions, and it doesn't necessarily just have to be about the Secretary of State's office. I did serve 8 years in the House and 8 years in the Senate. Do we have any legislators still here? Okay, good. Yeah, so you've got a good legislative team, down here that represents you in Jefferson City very well. And are any of us perfect? Most certainly we're not. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes every day, but I try to learn from those mistakes and be a better Secretary of State. And back when I was a state senator or state rep, be that as well. So, any questions? I've got a couple answers for some of your all's questions that you had before. So someone asked about utilizing the Mississippi River more. When I was in the House, I put money, I was actually in charge of appropriations for the Economic Development Bill, Department of Revenue Bill, and I think the MoDOT bill. And so we put some money in to help build up our ports. And Senator Berger's right. For every barge that we have going down the Mississippi, we take off about 100 trucks from the roads and highways. And that's number one, it's good economic development. And number two, it's great for safety to get those trucks off the road. And those, there was some pushback at first because they said, oh, well, what about these trucking companies? The trucking companies were concerned. Well, what that did, it forced the trucking companies, they're still doing all right, but they're on the last mile of service now. The last mile of service. So it increased their transportation and the need to have those trucks at those ports to deliver those the last few miles to their final destination. I like answering questions.
You mentioned SB22, and
yes.
One of the things probably I think a lot of people don't think about is like how important the wording is on the ballot and
That's right.
how much control you have over that, which very much appreciate.
Yes.
So there's been a couple, well, there have probably been several examples recently, but on kind of the topic of education, there have been some initiative petitions that
yes.
have been an attack on not only school choice, but homeschooling and
That's
sort
right.
of things. So I know that you won the lawsuit that was brought in one.
I did.
I'm curious about the other because I haven't heard about that yet.
I think the other's still pending litigation. So yeah, she's referring. There was a initiative petition filed. Currently, there's I believe 136 initiative petitions out for circulation. So when I talk about that, that's if you said, hey, if you want to file, anybody can file an initiative petition. All right. And so we do have some frequent, I call them frequent flyers, that I think just like to see their name on the Secretary of State's website. So they can file something that says, hey, I think that the Secretary of State should be paid $1 million a year. I can file that, I guess. I'm not, all right? So let's not have no news stories about Secretary Hoskins says he should be paid $1 million a year. But let's say I did. Let's say I said, I think the Secretary of State should be paid $1 million a year. So I go on the Secretary of State's website, I file that. It shows up on the website. As Secretary of State, I get to decide the wording on that. And so I would put, hey, the Secretary of State, he's such a great guy, and he deserves $1 million a year in the salary. Now, I could be challenged on that, and with the lawsuit, so the opposition, the state auditor might say, well, my job's more important than the Secretary of State, so I think I should make $1 million, and he shouldn't make $1 million. So he could challenge that. It would go to the courts. If the courts decided that language, that the Secretary of State's going to make $1 million is not fair and accurate, then he could throw that language out. And then me, as Secretary of State, I would get to rewrite that up to 3 times and then send it back. So if after the 3rd time the court decided, like, yes, that language is still not fair and accurate, you're not as good looking and charming as you say on this ballot language, and that's not fair and accurate language, well then it would go to the courts. The courts would decide what exactly that language is. And so we've had a handful of examples where I've got to write the language, where the language that the legislature wrote has been challenged in court, or filed with the initiative petition. And again, there's, like I said, 136 out there, so just be careful when somebody asks you to sign something on an initiative petition. Make sure you know what you're signing. I don't predict that we'll have 136 initiative petitions on the ballot, or different questions on the ballot in 2026, but we're at least going to have 5, and probably a few more if this referendum process for the redistricting, they gather enough signatures for that. So I get to write the language, and that language is very important. It's very important that language is fair and accurate and describes precisely what, if the voters of the state of Missouri approved that ballot question, what it would do, or if they reject that ballot question. I've got another one that, so you mentioned that the one on school choice, I wrote the language for that. The opposition, or the people that are pro that ballot question, do not like my language. But Judge Cotton Walker in Jefferson City said, yes, your language is both fair and accurate, and so we're going to stick with that language. There's some other things, other potential questions that are coming up too that I'll have the opportunity in order to write that language. And so now we have an elected official like me, the chief election officer of the state of Missouri, able to write many of that language for those ballot questions. But yes, I tell my legislative colleagues, I said, hey, thanks for the new powers, and thanks for opening me up to more and more lawsuits, because I'm being sued all the time because somebody doesn't like the language that I propose, and so they have every right to sue, and the courts have every right to take up that lawsuit and see if it is fair and accurate. But so far, the language that I've proposed on everything's been fair and accurate. Good question. Yes?
Senator Bean might appreciate this question. I was wondering if you could speak to any legislation that's pending about foreign ownership of farmland in Missouri?
Yeah, foreign ownership of farmland. Yeah, so I know that that has been in and out of the legislature. Both the House and the Senate, there's several members, including myself when I was a Missouri State Senator, have filed legislation not only to prevent foreign land ownership, but to prevent foreign, or we're talking about agriculture, but I have Whiteman Air Force Base in my district. Obviously, Fort Leonard Wood isn't too far from here, to ban foreign land ownership around our military bases as well. And so, unfortunately, that has not taken hold, and for whatever reason, over the last several years, so I know that it's been a priority of several senators as well as state reps, including myself, like I said, when I was a state senator, and unfortunately that has not passed. But I know in some other states like Arkansas, I think Arkansas, Governor Huckabee just said, hey, we're taking back all the land that China bought. And so I know that there will be several bills that will be filed December 1st with the pre-filing, when they can start pre-filing bills in the legislature, and I can guarantee you that there will be several bills regarding that pre-file starting December 1st. Good question. Yes?
Just a quick question, and this is getting into the weeds just a little bit.
All right.
Obviously, a big part of your job is making sure that our elections are not only fair but accurate.
Yes.
And I'm curious with initiative petitions. I imagine we could talk all day about the process, but when you're getting signatures from all over the state, and these are hand-scrawled signatures that somebody wrote down at a festival or a gas station,
right,
or somebody on a street corner, could you tell us what your office does to actually verify that if I say go sign signatures in 18 different districts around the state, and you can't read half of them, how do you verify how many people actually?
That's a great question. So we're probably getting ready to do this, and so the legislature, the Governor Kehoe called the legislature back into special session in September. The legislature passed a new congressional redistricting map. Now, in the state of Missouri, we have what we call basically a referendum process. So it's basically a citizen veto of any bill that the legislature passes. And so the opposition of the new congressional redistricting map has said, hey, we're filing a referendum. They don't like the language that I proposed for the referendum. That's just the way it is. But they're out there gathering signatures right now. And so in the state of Missouri, they have together about a little over 106,000 signatures in 6 out of the 8 congressional districts in order to get that referendum on the ballot. And the referendum would basically say, hey, if you vote yes on this referendum, then it vetoes what the legislature did on this congressional redistricting. If you vote no, then hey, then those maps will stand. And so they have, on this particular one, on the referendum, they have until December, the opponents of the new congressional maps have until December 11th to submit those signatures. And so this is my first time doing one of these. It has been done before. And so they will theoretically, they will bring up a U-Haul, and they will unload all these boxes of signatures, bring them into our office, and then we will upload them, scan them in by county, and send them to each county clerk. And then we'll be working with the county clerks in order to look at each voter registration card and compare that signature with the signature on that referendum. Now, there's lots of different things. So there's a whole list of rules and laws and things about signing, whether it's an initiative petition or referendum. I mean, you have to sign who you actually are. You know, so if somebody's going to sign a referendum, they can sign their own name. They can't say, well, my dad really believes in this too, so I'm going to go ahead and sign his name. Don't sign any relatives' names. Only make sure you sign your own name. Then the referendum or the initiative petition, they have to have a copy of that on their clipboard with that signature page. And so they can't, if you say, well, can I see the language? Before I consider signing anything, you have every right to do that. Can I see the language? And if they say, well, no, I don't have the language with me, then that's illegal as well. They have to have the language right with them. They can't say, well, it's back in my car, it's in my backpack, or something like that. And so you, as a voter, have every right to see what language that is. And so after those signatures are sent to our office, and we upload those, then we go through that process of individually verifying each individual signature. Now, some states, they do a sample. They'll do a sample size. In the state of Missouri, we look at every signature. And so I think opponents of that, I saw where they said they have 200,000 gathered so far. I don't know if they do or not, because talking to my elections team who served both Republican and Democrat secretaries of state, whether it's Secretary Kander, whether it's Secretary Ashcroft, whether it's we have some that were here with Secretary Carnahan, Secretary Blunt, things like that. They said sometimes, so they're supposed to have them labeled by county when they bring them in. They said sometimes, though, they bring in like boxes with just one signature page in there to make it look like they have more boxes than they actually do, and so they can take videos and things like that. So yeah, I don't know if excited is the best word, but I'm anxious to have get this process started. I know as Secretary of State, I take my job very seriously, and whether I agree or disagree with what exactly is being circulated, that doesn't matter. My job is to follow the law, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to follow the law the way the law is written. Now, of course, there's going to be some that may say I am not interpreting the correct way that the law reads, but I've got good general counsel and served in the legislature for 16 years, so we've got good experts on our side as well. Other questions? We're here. Hey, Ray.
So, since the election was stolen in 2020,
yeah,
and our country got screwed over, we've done a great job here in Missouri locking down our elections.
Yeah.
In my opinion, and this goes back to when I worked with Don Roan and Sherry Rice on the election integrity bill, we need to go as far as closed primaries. How do you feel about that?
I've always supported closed primaries. When I was in the legislature, I supported closed primaries. Right now, President Trump issued a elections integrity executive order on March 25th of 2025. So some of the things in there, like President Trump called for paper ballots. Okay, so paper ballots are already the official state ballot here in the state of Missouri. So some of those things we already do. Some of the things would require legislation in order to do, like requiring proof of citizenship in order to vote. And I believe when the voters here passed Amendment 7 a year ago that changed the Constitution to say only citizens can vote in the state of Missouri, I believe that is a mandate on me as Secretary of State, as well as our legislature, to require proof of citizenship in order to vote. And so there's some things that I may be able to do just by executive order. So we're really working hard on the election integrity aspect of it. I know I've had some other conversations with some of our legislators about closed primaries, and like I said, that's something that I supported as a legislator. Whatever the legislators decide to do, or General Assemblies decide to do, I will institute. And so if they pass closed primaries, then that's what we will have in the state of Missouri, and I will enforce that as the chief election officer. Good question. Any other questions? All right. Oh, right here. Here we go.
You're the fifth presenter that's been up there.
Yes.
Everybody's talked about transportation. I know this isn't part of yours, but since you already opened the door, that's okay. Not one of the five has said anything about rail.
About what? Rail?
Mm-hmm. Rail is the cheapest and the most effective for moving bulk freight.
Yes.
Your barge takes 100 trucks off the road. A train takes 250 off the road.
Mm-hmm.
Can you shed a little light on Missouri State, how they feel about rail and what they're doing to promote it?
Well, I can talk about a little bit from my past experience. So in the legislature, whenever we get to rail and I would start talking in, whether it was Senate Appropriations or House Budget Committee, some of my friendly colleagues would say choo-choo, because I've always been a supporter of rail. So yes, I think we need to invest more in rail as well.
and whether that's not just commercial rail. I mean, we didn't talk about Amtrak as well, but I think Amtrak is an investment as well. That helps keep folks off the interstates, and it helps reduce traffic as well. So I'm a all in, whether that's ports, whether that's rail, whether that's airports. I'm an all in. I think we need to invest in all of those, because that many times when businesses look for what exactly, where to invest or where to put a new plant or where to expand their presence, they look at transportation. And you're right, it's not always about ports, but it is about rail, and some of it's about air as well. So I'm an all-in kind of guy. Any other questions? All right, well, thank you very much. Thanks for letting me have the opportunity to come visit with you all. Remember, I've got some swag I know that we brought that has some different things from the Secretary of State's office. You can find out, like I said, if you're creating an LLC or a nonprofit or have questions, visit the website. We have reduced the wait times for the most part of calling business services, but we have a lot of turnover in that area. I mean, and I tell those folks that work in the Secretary of State's office, I said, I can't do what you all do. They are on the phones about 8 hours a day, and it's usually from people that are having folks that are trying to create a business and maybe have a problem or something didn't work the way that they thought. But you can do all of that online. But most certainly, I just ask for a little patience and grace if they put you on hold, because they're working their tails off and trying to get everybody's questions answered. But economic development is not just important here in Southeast Missouri. It's important all over Missouri. And so some of the same questions and struggles that you are facing, you're not alone. You're not alone. But I know from the Secretary of State's office, we're trying to make everything that we do, make it easier to create a business, make it easier to register a fictitious name, make it easier to start a non-for-profit, and started off by doing that with the website. So thank you all again for being here. Thanks for having me, and God bless you.
Thank you, Secretary Hoskins. To answer your question, rail, so I've had conversations with Senator Bean, and rail has always been included in that, because when you get up here in other parts of the state, of course you can rail down the river, you can rail, etc. So that is part of the conversation. So to answer your question there. Our next speaker is going to be from the University of Missouri, Vice Chancellor Chad Higgins, who's over Extension and Outreach. The amount of resources that Extension has available that most people, I'm actually on the Extension for Wayne County because I'm on the Farm Bureau Board, but anyways, I had no idea, and I still find stuff every day about the amount of information that you have access to. But I'll leave all that to Vice Chancellor Higgins here, but let's give a warm welcome for Chad Higgins.
All right, I gotta come down here with you all so I can see the presentation, so I know what I'm talking about. Well, it's a pleasure to be here. It's a beautiful part of the state. I did my undergrad in northern Arkansas at a very small school, and about half those students that were with me were from about Jeff City South. And so every weekend we found ourselves somewhere around here on a river in a canoe or in a tent, and just fell in love with this part of the state. I was telling Denny, sometimes it sounds like I can't hold down a job. I started my career with Extension at LSU, with LSU Ag Center, and my wife took a position with the FBI, so I transferred my position from LSU to WVU in West Virginia. And then I got a call from Iowa State University that wanted me to take an administrative position there, so we moved to Ames. And then I got a call from Mizzou that says, hey, we really want you to come to Mizzou. And so I've done this really big circle. And it's really great to be back in this part of the world. Many of you know that 4-H is an extension program. It is a program of Mizzou. If you are in 4-H or were in 4-H, you are actually part of Mizzou. This just outlines our partnership with you. Our vision and mission is to work with you to solve problems at the local level. And what we bring Let's see here, we've got at least 3 people that are associated directly with extensions in this room. If you are part, Sarah, please stand up. This Sarah Beaker is our regional director for extension, and that it's 18 counties in the southeast part of the state. Jennifer, please stand up. The engagement specialist that really connects our extension councils to the community and make sure that they're connected to the university. And we've got Fran Man. Where's Fran? You're in Wayne County. She is the heart and soul of extension in this county. So thank you all for being here. So how do we know what to do? How do we know how to serve you? Well, we ask. And you may have been asked to fill a survey out in this last round. We simply just ask you what keeps you up at night. What keeps Missourians up at night? And they tell us. We either will do it in a survey or we'll do it in a conversation. The ag economy is very important to Missourians. Downtown Main Street, Missouri is very important to Missourians. Education is very important to Missourians. And rural health is very important to Missourians. So these are the 4 things that we have heard loud and clear, that we need to take the resources that we have at the University of Missouri in Columbia and say, how do you take the expertise off this campus to address these questions? Now I'm going to go down a little rabbit hole and say that we've got an amazing opportunity in Missouri because we do things different here. If you go back to 1862 when the land grant was developed, one of the problems that the United States had was putting enough good food on the tables of the people in the nation. Fast forward to 1915 when extension was created, one of the biggest problems in the United States was putting enough good food on the tables of Americans. All right, so in 1915, when we said we got to match the research and educational programming from the land grant to address the issues, it was around putting enough good food on the tables of people in the United States. And that involved animal science and that involved plant science. So some of you may look at extension and go, cows, plows, and sows. It's because it was born out of agriculture. And in the vast majority of the land grants across the nation, extension sits in the College of Agriculture. At Mizzou, it does not. Mizzou has elevated extension to sit right under the Chancellor. I report to Moon Choi directly. So that opens up not only every college and school on campus in Columbia to extension networks that we have across the state, but I'm also the Chief Engagement Officer for the other 3 universities. So that's S&T in Raleigh, that's UMKC, and that's it, and that's Humboldt. So that's 4 universities that we have to pull expertise from to address local issues that you see in your communities. We are an engaged university. We are all over this state. We have about 970 MU extension faculty and staff all over the state working for you. If you have not reached out to your extension partners in your county, please do so. They're a wonderful resource. This is real quickly from a Mizzou perspective. These are the programs that we work with mainly. It's our ag and the environment, youth, health and human sciences, business and communities, community and professional health education, safety. I don't think we have 1,000 anymore. I think we're about 970. But we have faculty and staff embedded in the College of Ag, College of Education, College of Business, Human Sciences, College of Engineering, School of Journalism, Arts and Sciences, the Law School, School of Medicine, School of Nursing, Vet Med, you name it. We've got faculty in those colleges. We also share faculty with Humboldt and UMKC and Wallace. So we really do have a direct line to the expertise in every one of those colleges. This is the leadership team. I'm there on the end. Lisa Washburn is the Associate Vice Chancellor. Sarah Traub is over all the continuing ed programs that we have in reporting and data analysis for what we gather to show our return on investment. And Jody Squires works with all of our counties, all 114 counties. Senior program directors. I've got to change the picture. We've got a new 4-H over there, don't we?
Tim Tanner. Dr. Tim Tanner is our new 4-H leader, just started. We're glad to have him with us. And so these are our administrative regions. You can see in the southeast part of the state, Sarah, who just stood up, this is the counties in the southeast part of the, in our southeast region. They work as a team to address the problems that we see from the boot heel up to around here. We do have brick and mortar all across this state. So again, if you have not reached out to your local extension office, please do so. Greenville, Wayne County is in Greenville. Here's another resource that I would really encourage you to use is allthingsmissouri.org. It's a wonderful place to find any type of data for your county or for your area. It's down to zip code data. It's a wonderful resource. You can build maps. You can look at it from legislative districts. You can look at it from school districts. You can look at it from address. And a couple of points of pride that I'll point out real fast is we return extension alone returns $1.2 billion return on investment. We reach over 1 million Missourians with our programming every year. That $1.2 billion return is that every dollar spent on extension programs will return $13 to the state. We are on track to helping the state double the economic impact of ag by 2030. We have 60,000 4-H'ers in this state that are card-carrying members, and our after-school network reaches over 120,000. We have about, 10,000, 8,000 master gardeners in the state. Our SBDC, our small business group, generated $3.1 million for impact for this state. If you have not reached out to your local SBDC for information, please do so. And I'll tell you that this next one, rural healthcare, is one that I'm really focused on. We have a large healthcare operation in Columbia. We also have a large healthcare operation at WashU. Those are two premier universities. And to think in the boot heel, because of your zip code, you live 10 years less than someone else in this state, that should not happen with two Tier 1 research healthcare outfits in the state. And so we're working together with MU Healthcare, with WashU, and using our network in every county in this state to say, how can we better address rural healthcare in this state? How can we get the information? How can we do cancer screenings? How can we do health screenings in every county in the state utilizing the extension network? And again, broadband is going to be huge. We are already piloting telemental health in our local offices for extension, but you got to have broadband to do that. You want to recruit nurses and doctors into your community, you better have broadband to do that. You want to recruit teachers to your community, you better have broadband to do that. It's going to be a really important part of what we do. Here's some points of pride for this region. You've got folks doing some incredible things in this region. I won't read them all word for word. You can go through this. And Sarah or Jennifer, if you would like to say anything special about anything you see up there, that'd be fine too. Do you want to?
No, but Jennifer's up there, so we'll bring her up. She has been very instrumental
in the broadband process. She's worked with 3 different counties now, and she's also, a lot of our funding was cut for broadband, but Jennifer is kind of the point person in the state for extension. So if you have broadband questions, there she is.
Yeah, we saw, I would call it generational money coming into the state, $1.7 billion for broadband infrastructure. A couple of years ago, that has been, it hasn't been diverted. It's just the effort has changed. It was fiber.
Now it is including more satellite and more towers as well. But in areas like this, fiber is really important. That's how we're doing it. Towers just do not get it done. All right. So I'm a teacher by trade. I told you what I was going to tell you, and then I told you, and then I got to tell you what I told you, right? How I'm going to do that, I'm going to do it by a video, so you don't have to hear me do it all.
University of Missouri Extension. We bring research and resources from Mizzou to Missouri and beyond. With local, state, and national partners, we work to address challenges in agriculture, the economy, education, and health. Our roots run deep. The Morrill Act of 1862 gave the University of Missouri land grant status, making the university more accessible to the public. Then, in 1914, the National Cooperative Extension Service was established, so land-grant universities could share agricultural and technical research and resources that improve quality of life in rural America. With these advances, agricultural productivity surged in the 20th century. They helped drive innovations like rural electrification across America, so our nation and our state could prosper. Today, this mission continues, as MU Extension addresses the 21st century needs of all Missourians. Agricultural experts help Missouri farmers, ranchers, and producers thrive while caring for our state's natural resources. 4-H professionals prepare the next generation of confident and caring leaders. Economic and community development programs help businesses start up and expand. Professional and community health educators focus on chronic health issues like diabetes and heart disease, and offer mental health and substance misuse expertise and support. We train peace officers, firefighters, animal cruelty investigators, and emergency responders for their vital public safety, emergency management, and disaster preparedness mission. Our health and nutrition educators work with leaders and families to build healthier and stronger communities, increase healthy food access, and teach skills so everyone can be as healthy as possible. And with local, state, and national partners, we're connecting every Missourian to high-speed internet service, a must-have utility. We believe the more we learn, the more we can do for ourselves, and for communities in our state and beyond. We are the University of Missouri Extension. Together, we learn more, do more.
She said it a lot faster than I did. I'll open it up for any questions. What I want the takeaway for this to be for you is that as you look at what's happening in your communities, that there's any way that we can tie the universities and the systems. It's actually even more than that, because I've got peers all across the state. I can pull resources from Kansas State, Iowa State, Georgia, Pennsylvania, New York, from Cornell, anywhere. I've got peers everywhere. If there's anything that we can do to help move the needle in your communities, we'll be glad to work with you to do that. And our experts are sitting back here in the back of the room for you to take note of and to reach out to. Of course, you can call me anytime as well. But I really do appreciate this, and we do this because A, it's really important, and B, we're you. We want our communities to thrive.
I don't have a question, but I do know that you have an outstanding research center down in Horseville, the Fisher Delta Center. I would encourage you to just continue to support that and help them all you can.
Absolutely. The comment is at the Fisher Delta Center. We do a lot of research there, row crop research, and we will support it. Absolutely. It's an incredibly important research center for the state. And for the world. We're putting in a new soil lab there that will be world class.
Just want to give a shout out to the SBDCs. We can't afford to have business development departments within our companies, but with the SBDCs, you can reach out to them, and they have the collective knowledge from the university system to help build marketing plans. They have a lot of access to, for instance, like iBuzz World, any industry data that you might be looking for free. And USDA is a phenomenal organization, has a lot of business development grants. I mean, last year alone, for the REAP grant, they gave me $50,000 to improve a building. And you don't have a lot of access to a lot of that. So I just wanted to shout out to those.
Thank you. We can do shout outs for a lot on what we do, I'll guarantee you that. Any other questions or comments? Or shout outs, man, I love them.
You work alongside with any of the mineral colleges?
We do. We are minimal on our shared faculty with them, but we do work with them. That's an area of growth, especially now. Benny?
I think that's all she wrote. Thank you. And again, all our speakers today, they came on their own accord, so they're here on their own time. A lot of them had to already leave to go to other engagements, etc. But I want to thank you guys for coming out, because this begins that conversation, at least directions you can have, conversations you can have. And again, reach out to some of the other people in this room, because who you may not know, they may know, you may have the answer to your questions. So again, appreciate you guys coming out. We'll see what the future holds. And to be honest with you, whether rural Missouri prospers, whether Southeast Missouri prospers or not, it's up to us. So we just need to get out there and keep doing what we need to do. Keep working in your businesses, keep expanding those, and putting your heart into them, and the Lord will take care of the rest. So again, thank you guys for being here today. God bless you. And